Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Glasgow for the MSEM format. I'm Caillou. Today we're going to be watching the round 2 match between BluesEclipse, who is playing Blue-White Artifact Tempo, and Chumbeque, who is playing Red-White Newcomer's Luck. So Blues opening up game 1 right here. So Blues opened up turn 1 with a Veteran Life Forger, which is just a 2-1 for 1, but being an artifact creature is good synergy with Blues' deck. Then bounced his own land to play a Lumen Bay Flyer line, which just increases the artifact count. These rail lines are essentially mana rocks, which you can alt cast by returning a land to your hand. And then turn 2, gonna Reflective Automaton. Again, it's another creature which seems slightly underpowered, but does have the added benefit of giving you a scry every time an artifact enters the battlefield, such as when Blues plays another Lumen Bay Flyer line. So Blues' deck, I think, has, and I don't think this is very common compared to lots of MSEM decks. It has a decent density of slightly underpowered cards, which have artifact synergies, and then a few really bomb cards, which just take the artifact synergy to another level. Anyways, Chumbeque is going to be playing a Minister of Zealots, and then using the token it creates to swing for 1. So Chumbeque's deck is essentially a red-white tokens deck that is specifically focused around hasty tokens because of the titular card Newcomer's Luck. So Newcomer's Luck is a 1-mana red enchantment which gives +2/+1 to any creature when it enters the battlefield, but it doesn't give them haste. So you have to play hasty creatures in order to make it work. Right now, though, with Blues on the play might just out-aggro Chumbeque. Also has the Sand Scatter to be able to exile the Minister of Zealots. It's essentially, Sand Scatter is essentially a variant on Path to Exile, but because it gives them a desert, it's worth 1 more mana. Also going to play Self-Replication, make 2 1/1 tokens, gets 2 more Scry triggers as a result from this Reflective Automaton. And then going to swing in for 4 with the Reflective Automaton and Veteran Life Forger. Chumbeque, meanwhile, is going to run out of Rabid Thrill and then just pass. That is unfortunate. How does Chumbeque have 5 cards in hand and no creatures? Maybe, does Chumbeque have anything that creates tokens at instant speed? I don't believe so. Might just have a Rogar's Frenzy. Anyways, Blue's going to play an Interon Skycaster. Again, 1/2 flying artifact creature, not super great. The exile mode, fine. But again, just the synergy with lots of the ETB creatures is so strong. And yeah, it looks like Chumbeque just had a Rogar's Frenzy. Gonna kill the Reflective Automaton. Probably should have done this, really should have done this in response to the Interon Skycaster, because that way Blues would not get a Scry trigger, and also Chumbeque would have been able to kill the Reflective Automaton, rather than having it just get flickered. Yeah, that was a really bad move by Chumbeque. I genuinely think that was a bad misplay. It might be that Chumbeque has some Planeswalkers in hand, which he can't run out right now because of the board that Blues has. Is going to play a Warrior's Pride, and then tap 2 for a Passionate Congregation, making 2 hasty Cleric tokens. So is going to attack for a grand total of 8 damage. Yeah. Actually 16, because they have double strike. Because they get they're 1/1s, they get +3 from the Rabid Thrill and Warrior's Pride. And then Warrior's Pride also gives them double strike. So Blues is forced to block at least one of them. So Blues is going to take 1 and block one of them with the Interon Skycaster. And that completely changes the momentum in Chumbeque's favor. Blues might be able to kill Chumbeque here, though, if he has a Nightwatch Rallier or something similar. Or if he has removal for one of these Cleric tokens, could probably stall out for a bit. But no, just has an Ocean Monastery, enters tapped. Gonna swing in for 4 with Reflective Automaton and Veteran Life Forger. Kind of a risky move, actually, because if Chumbeque has removal, is just going to or like another hasty token maker, can just slam in and kill Blues here. But I guess Blues is just playing to his outs. And Chumbeque gonna play an Isle Tazen, probably going to +2 and kill one of the tokens and then swing in for lethal. Instead is -0ing to create a 0/1 elemental token, which becomes obviously a 3/4 double, a 3/1 double striker. So interesting play from Chumbeque there. Unfortunately, though, Blues has the Sand Scatter for one of the Cleric tokens, and then is going to chump with the 2 constructs. So still signs of life right here. And that does explain why Blues attacked with the 2 creatures, because he had some backup protection. On upkeep, going to crack the Ocean Monastery. He is empty-handed. Wait, but the token has trample. Yeah, so they missed the trample from the Eiltazen token. Because it has trample, it's able to go over Blues' creatures and kill them. Yeah, Blues should have... If Blues had read that, probably would have Sand Scattered the Elemental token instead. But yeah, that was a crazy game 1. Blues... The advantage was in Blues' court that entire time, and then Chumbeque just dropped 2 tokens, and it was like, oh, so my enchantments make them, each of them must answer threats, and you don't have wipes? Kind of crazy. Anyways, let's look at sideboards before getting into this game too. So for Blues, Cold Grave, Unbreachable Walls, Dispel, Fade into Mist, none of them are particularly attractive. Once Shunned is really the only card in here that seems to be good versus aggro. So I would say bring in the Once Shunned. Fade into Mist is actually not bad because it's good versus... It basically kills a token. So I could see maybe bringing in Fade into Mists and Once Shunned. Actually, and the Negates are not bad versus Chumbeque's deck because Chumbeque is running a lot of non-creatures as ways to make tokens. So I could see Negate, Once Shunned, and Fade into Mists coming in. Meanwhile, on Chumbeque's end, the Desecrate Antiquities is just insane versus Blues' deck, especially since it hits rail lines. So this is for sure coming in. I think the Smelts can also come in because they're just 1 mana kill your thing spell. Yeah, I think that's almost a perfect sideboard for Blues' decks. So Chumbeque should be in good shape here. So Blues does not have a turn 1 play game 2, just going to play an Ocean Monastery and then pass. Chumbeque, however, going to run out the signature card, Newcomer's Luck, turn 1. On upkeep, Blues is going to crack the Ocean Monastery for Sedate Tundra. The pain lands here from both players are probably going to be crucial for determining the clock that each player has. Blues is going to play a Sparking Automaton and then pass. So it's just a 2/2 for 2, but with the amount of artifacts that Blues can create, it can grow huge very quickly. Chumbeque, though, does have the turn 2 Passionate Congregation. Going to be swinging in for a whopping 6 damage right here. Will Blues trade? Nope, Blues is just going to straight take 6 damage. I guess the thought is the Clerics don't pose a constant threat because they just go back to 1/1s at the end of this turn. Wow, and Blues just going to play an island and pass. Could have, or likely has a counterspell. Either the one that taxes if you have an artifact, or the Negate. Yup, has the Artificer's Persuasion, and going to counter the Rogar's Frenzy on the Sparking Automaton. Chumbeque can still next turn exile Rogar's Frenzy to get the elemental tokens, but they'll still be 1/1s, because since they don't have haste, Newcomer's Luck can't give them a buff. It would be interesting to see Chumbeque use the Newcomer's Luck defensively, though, by Rogar's Frenzying on Blues, like creating the tokens on Blues' turn, and using them as blockers. Because at that point they would be 3/2 blockers. I think that's a synergy with Newcomer's Luck that is kind of unintended, but has cool consequences for how you have to think through lines. Okay, Blues is going to play an Artificer's Prowess. It only has its base mode, so only gets a construct token instead of a 6/6 golem, but it does get to draw a card, and this does trigger the Sparking Automaton, making it a 3/3. Then he's going to swing in with the Sparking Automaton. Chumbeque likewise will just take it. Both of them are trying to maintain their boards and playing fast and loose with their life total. which I think Chumbeque can afford to do because Blues doesn't have tramplers and doesn't have reach, while it's a little bit more risky for Blues because Chumbeque does have both burn and tramplers to finish off the job. As well as hasty white boys. So Chumbeque tries to run out an Ale Tizen. Blues is just going to negate her. Yeah, after losing that last game, Blues is like, nah, I am not going to mess with that, Chief. Chumbeque's going to swing in for 1 with the Cleric token. Blues is tapped out here, but nope, not gonna mess with that. Not gonna block the construct, just gonna take the 1 from the Cleric. Meanwhile, Blues running out a Union Railed Strikebreaker. This is a really powerful card, which is basically a color-shifted young Pyromancer, but the artifact synergies it offers on its tokens are super huge. Anyways, Blues is going to swing in for 3 with the Sparking Automaton. Chumbeque is going to block. Blues still has 2 mana up, notably, and can also use this as a combat trick if Blues has like a Sandscatter. Sandscatter a creature, create a token off of Union Railed Strikebreaker, buff up Sparking Automaton. Combat math is suddenly super complicated. Wow, and Chumbeque just passes. What cards does Chumbeque have in hand? Maybe he's waiting for a turn to double spell or waiting for Blues to tap out. Could have like a Sigura Tam that he wants to resolve. But meanwhile, Blues is like, nah, never mind, I'm just going to extend my board, dude. Buffs the Sparking Automaton up to a 4/4. And then Reflective Automaton does not yet get a scry. So I'm going to swing in with the Sparking Automaton. Swinging in for 4. Chumbeque's debating on whether or not to take it or to block with this Cleric token. Okay, is going to do what I said earlier. Going to exile Rogar's Frenzy to make the 2 elemental tokens. And in response, but Blues has the once shunned to exile the Newcomer's Luck, so they don't become 3/2s. And also gets a Construct token out of the mix. Sparking Automaton becomes a 5/5. And Blues gets a scry. The engine is online. So Chumbeque, instead of being able to kill the Sparking Automaton, has to be satisfied with chumping it. Of note, though, is that Blues is tapped out. Chumbeque can use that to his advantage now to resolve Sigura Tam or something. Or on end of turn, has a second Rogar's Frenzy, is going to kill the Union Rail Strikebreaker before it gets too crazy. A little bit too late for the Sparking Automaton, though. So what is Chumbeque going to do with this free turn? Tapping a massive 6. What could this be? Desecrate Antiquities. X is equal to 4. And didn't need to do that, I think, because Blues' highest converted mana cost creature is 2, but does get to idolize 4 times. Creates these fancy little idol tokens. But yeah, that's a brutal sideboard tech. Gets to swing in for 2 with the little Cleric and little Elemental. And yeah, if Blues doesn't have a response, Chumbeque can just, next turn, buff up his own creatures, or maybe even play like a Sigura Tam. And Blues is mostly tapping out for a Volta Construct Consultant. Probably just going to -2. Oh, okay, he's going to play a Northern Express line, and then replay a land. Volta -2, draw 3 cards. And then essentially Thirst for Meaning. What is Blues going to discard? The weird part is if Blues' only artifact here is the artifact he wants to keep, it kind of sucks. No, he's going to discard a Brinefleet Bay, which doesn't quite help when you don't have anything to crew it. Yeah. Does Blues have anything else he can play this turn? He's going to run out of self-replication, does get 2 constructs. Those chump effectively for a little bit. Chumbeque, though, can save his creatures from trading by idolizing them. And yeah, Blues doesn't have anything else for now. Could still have a Once Shunned, because of its alt cost, I think. But otherwise, can't have anything else up. Or I guess could also have another self-replication. So Chumbeque is going to swing both at the Volta. Blues is just going to let him die. And Chumbeque's just going to pass again. Chumbeque's only has 1 card in hand. Might be a land, and Chumbeque is just getting super flooded. Or Chumbeque might have another Rogar's Frenzy or another one of the wipes, because I believe the artifact wipe is instant speed. Meanwhile, Blues is going to play an Interon Skycaster and then align the Astrolabe, which Blues being empty-handed, the Align the Astrolabe is not super great here. And the Interon Skycaster doesn't have any good ETB creatures to reuse, so its main real claim to fame is being a 1/2 flyer. And again, this is the problem with Blues' deck, other than, being vulnerable to sad artifact hate. So Blues is going to try and attack with the Construct. Meanwhile, Chumbeque is going to Rogar's Frenzy again, exiling from his graveyard. And then I'm assuming Idolize on one, he's going to Idolize one of the Rogar's Frenzy tokens and then block this Construct. Yup, I think Blues forgot about the second Rogar's Frenzy, and that's going to cost him. And on end, Idolize again. Yup, is going to Idolize another Elemental. Despite being super flooded, Chumbeque does have these idols as mana sinks, so at least he has something to do with this mana. So Chumbeque is going to swing in with everything, and if Blues blocks, if Blues has to block, because otherwise Chumbeque buffs up the creatures in response to damage and kills Blues, but Blues has to lose his creatures here, because Chumbeque can just Idolize them in response. So Blues is going to block this Elemental. Chumbeque is going to save it by Idolizing it, and then Idolize the Cleric. Does him 6 damage to Blues, and then passes. Does not have Burn. But I don't know that there's much that Blues can do right here to actually come back from this board state. Blues tapping out has a Phyrexian Arcforger. So this nets him a solid 3 artifact tokens. That's a great top deck. That is possibly the best top deck that Blues could have had. None of them can block and kill the elemental tokens, though, so they don't buy Blues more than a turn. But starting next turn, Blues can flicker the Phyrexian Arcforger with Interon Skycaster. Unfortunately, or at least that's what Blues would do. Unfortunately, but Blues can double block here. Oh, that's smart. So Blues double blocks the elemental token, so both of these creatures survive. And then next turn, Blues can start flickering the Phyrexian Arcforger with the Interon Skycaster, and then keep building up a board. Oh wait, no, Chumbeque can kill one of them. Never mind. I forgot that you don't have to distribute damage equally. Never mind. So yeah, it's just going to kill the Interon Skycaster. Arcforger remains. I don't know if I agree with that choice, because Blues only has one Arcforger, but has multiple Interon Skycasters, if I remember right. And main 2, Chumbeque's just going to play Newcomer's Luck and pass. Needs to top deck some burn right here. Blues has a Union Rail Strikebreaker that's pretty good. And then a Nightwatch Rallier X = 1. Now the Phyrexian Arcforger is a 2/3, thus can survive blocking and killing one of the elemental tokens. Or actually, I wonder how damage gets assigned, because... No, actually, yeah, it will. Because the Nightwatch Rallier will only die after combat. So once again, Chumbeque swinging for the fences, no reason not to. Blue's gonna block all 3. So everything dies except for the 2 tokens that Chumbeque has. And Blue's top deck's not her answer. That's it. Yeah, even though Chumbeque got so flooded, he's just that one wipe turned that entire game around and put it back in Chumbeque's court. And Chumbeque was able to just convert that solidly into a win. Good games to Chumbeque and BluesEclipse. And until next time, this is Caillou signing off.